Join nearly 1,400 entrepreneurs and students at the 2013 Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization National Conference in Chicago, October 31st through November 2nd. Visit CEO.org for more information. That's C-E-O.org.
This is Michael Mogill with the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, joined here with Michael Mogill, young serial entrepreneur, and Crisp Video, founder and owner. Michael, thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and Crisp Video.
Okay, so Crisp Video is it's our company. We are a corporate video production company, so we specialize in producing short-form videos for large brands and also small businesses, so anyone ranging from companies like Red Bull, Verizon, Coca-Cola, Audi, Lexus, Coldwell Banker, and so on, to the medical industry with doctors, dentists. So we basically, our clients include both high-profile global brands and small businesses, and our goal with our business has been to help clients enhance their brand and expand their reach through video. So ultimately helping them create videos that turn viewers into customers and clients.
And what started your journey as an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. I started, I think, when I was 13 years old, designing websites out of my parents' house, and we'd actually have, what's funny is my mom would let them in through the front door. I'd have clients come over to sit and discuss their website. So I think I started then, but I think the factor that drew me to entrepreneurship was I almost always believed that I would much rather rely on my own effort to get me to where I wanted to be than on someone else. If things didn't work out, or if I were to fail, I could always blame myself and take full accountability and responsibility over that. But to be in a different position where I'm working towards a goal for either someone else or another business with really no idea what tomorrow will look like just didn't appeal to me, and I just would much rather count it on myself. I can blame myself if things don't go well, but if I'm working alongside, say, with another business or working for a company, you're really at the really, it just depends on them. The direction they want to take the company, how they want to do things, and your role there.
On behalf of Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, want to thank you for agreeing to come speak at the 2013 CEO National Conference. What will you be speaking about?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And the topic that I'm speaking about is actually very near and dear to me, just because over the past few years, this is certainly something that I've had literally a daily experience with. So the topic that I'm speaking about is Serial Entrepreneurship 101, Managing Time, Money, Businesses, and Sanity. And that is balancing the four of those, I think, is one of the most difficult things to do, especially as an entrepreneur, I guess much less a serial entrepreneur, but learning the best way to handle those, and it has been an immense challenge, and I think any entrepreneur, especially new entrepreneurs, would benefit from, I guess, at least learning about my experiences and mistakes and failures and lessons learned.
You yourself are a serial entrepreneur. How would you describe a serial entrepreneur?
A serial entrepreneur is it's a tough term for me, because what I immediately think about when I hear serial entrepreneur is somebody who jumps from one thing to the next, and I think entrepreneurship recently has become somewhat of a fad. It's the cool thing right now to be president or CEO or start a business, and I guess we could partially attribute that to Shark Tank. So when I hear serial entrepreneur, I think of someone who just wants to start a business because they want to be their own boss and they want to basically run a company. But I think ultimately what I would really define a serial entrepreneur as is just someone who it's a steady progression, starting one business, growing it, establishing a strong company culture and a strong company structure, and then ultimately progressing to the next business. Really, I think it's problem solving your way through to where you can ultimately progress up rather than wide. Instead of just trying a bunch of things out, I think it's more so starting a bunch of businesses and creating businesses that are self-sufficient and can run themselves and have good processes in place.
Focus is something that's often stressed as a key success. As some entrepreneurs spread themselves too thin, or as you mentioned, just jump from project to project, how can you find out the proper balance and if each project is worth spending a significant amount of time on?
This is also, it's a very tough one because I think the toughest thing for entrepreneurs is really just deciding how do you spend your day and how do you spend your time, especially if it's something where, for one, you should obviously be very passionate and enjoy what you're doing. But I think more importantly, I think it's important to evaluate, just really have metrics behind the things that you do. Decide what is the best use of your time and what isn't. And it's something where a lot of times the things that are the most worthwhile can sometimes be the most discouraging because they can be the most challenging. And sometimes I think people quit when it stops being fun, usually a few months in or whatever that may be. So in terms of finding out the proper balance, I would just say have clear defined goals, begin with the end in mind, knowing what you'd like to get the business to or what you would like for it to be, and then really just establish the metrics in terms of evaluating. Are you getting closer to what that is, and how much time are you spending on this? How much money is this? Either is it bringing in, or what is it costing? Because oftentimes, we all have the same amount of time in a given day, and I think finding that proper balance it's going to take a lot of trial and error, but you have to have metrics just so at least you can track and say, okay, what was yesterday like, and what was a month ago like, so that you can at least evaluate whether the things that you're doing are worthwhile.
Are there ever times when you're not having fun?
You know what? Honestly, I think sometimes people would describe me in the office as being almost constantly frustrated, but not in a bad way. I think that's I'm always looking at all the things that need improvement in our business and evaluating ways in which we can do things better. I think you really need to have certain standards for the way in which you do business, and you should always, at least I've always come in and I think, okay, this needs improvement, we're slipping here, whatever that may be. So I'm always evaluating us internally and seeing how can we be a better business and a better company. So it's fun, I think. I think you just have to be honest with yourself, and I think you have to be honest with the people around you. You definitely have to, I think, at some points take a step back and just evaluate how far you've come and celebrate and actually enjoy that, but not for too long, because at the end of the day, if you're passionate and driven, you're not going to want to settle for where you are. You ultimately want to keep growing. So I think there's definitely periods where I'm not having fun, but I think it all comes together when a problem is solved. So it's not backing down from challenges. So you'll have periods of time where you do deal with adversity and deal with things that are just not going very well and just aren't a whole lot of fun to deal with, where you just realize in the middle of the day, I'm going to be here till 4 a.m. That's not fun. But at the same time, it's a whole lot of fun where enough of those add up to where, okay, now you're in a different situation because you basically put yourself through that and didn't quit when it stopped being fun.
And what would you recommend that a young entrepreneur try to focus on while they're first starting up? So, is it an advantage to work on several businesses at once, or should they just focus on one project? What would your advice be to an entrepreneur just starting out?
For an entrepreneur just starting out, I would advise that they really just focus on one business at a time. It's going to be tempting, I think, to jump from one thing to the next because there's just so many different things and so many interests someone might have and so many opportunities out there. But saying no is very powerful, and sticking with something for a very long time is very powerful. Sometimes things don't turn around and don't become worthwhile until you've really stuck with them for a significant period of time during which it hasn't been worthwhile. So I'd advise, when you're starting a business, focus on a very specific niche and have your purpose clearly defined from the very beginning. So that way you'll be able to know, okay, what are the things that I say no to, and how do I keep this business focused? And then really focus on trying to establish that proof of concept quickly. Is this going to be a profitable business? Does this make sense in whatever industry that you're launching that business in? Is there a need for this? So basically get to profitability as quickly as possible. So at that point you can figure out, is this worthwhile or not? But if it's not fun for, after 3 months or whatever that is, that doesn't mean jump to the next thing. Honestly, it's stick with it. If it's something obviously, again, it really just comes back to the tracking and metrics. If you're making progress and every day you're making some progress and you're better than you were the day before, then it's worth it and you should stick with it. But I just think that you really shouldn't jump to another business until you have a profitable, successful, self-sustaining business that has good operations and structures and company culture, because at that point you're really just going to spread yourself too thin.
And then last question here. What is one thing that you'd like to say to the young entrepreneurs who will be attending the 2013 CEO National Conference?
I would say that for anyone who's attending, I think it's going to be an invaluable opportunity to learn from several successful entrepreneurs. It's so valuable, I think, to learn from the experiences of others who have gone through what I think they're about to go through, or that a lot of things that they're probably already going through. To learn how to handle those things can be invaluable. And I think with my seminar in particular, I'd like for it to be as practical as possible, to be really just bring as much value as I possibly can, to talk about all the lessons that I've learned and things that have been that I wish I would have known starting out, and that could be applicable to really any type of business, because now, having started a few of them, the lessons are very much the same. The things that would have saved me a lot of time, stress, and money, and ultimately I would have been much further along had I learned these things sooner, and also just real practical advice in terms of, okay, how did I set up this structure or this system, or what did I find valuable? So it won't be, just the feel-good stuff where everyone comes out and they're motivated, but it'll be ultimately a strong takeaway that they can take back and apply to their businesses. And if it's something where they're genuinely determined, that they'll be able to apply right away.
Great. Well, once again, it's been Michael Lukes with Michael Mogill of Crisp Video. Michael, thanks again. We look forward to seeing you at the 2013 CEO National Conference.
Thank you. I look forward to being there.